The Qatar World Cup opened on November 20th, 2022. The Chinese men's soccer team failed to enter the game, yet the Chinese government and its central media outlets took the opportunity, that is a global watch sporting event, to praise the omnipresence of Chinese elements in the World Cup, hoping to cultivate and inspire patriotism or love for the party. But this propaganda campaign has provoked a lot of public resentment. On February 1st, 2022, in the top 12 of the World Cup Asian qualifiers held in Hanoi, Vietnam, in the 8th round, the Chinese team lost 1-3 to the bottom-ranked Vietnamese team. It's the first time in decades that the Chinese men's soccer team lost to the Vietnamese team, finding itself completely out of the Qatar World Cup. Fans from mainland China uploaded various videos of TVs being smashed to express their outrage. Some wrote, "It's a great shame that 1.4 billion Chinese don't have 11 players who can play in the World Cup," while others wrote, "The Chinese national soccer team is the biggest organization in the world that insults China." Many netizens rehashed the words of a former Chinese national soccer player. 9 years ago, after China lost 1-5 to Thailand, in an interview, he said, "This is the level of Chinese soccer now. Going on further, it's to lose to Vietnam, lose to Thailand, lose to Vietnam, and then lose to Myanmar. Next, there is no one to lose to."
On the other hand, the Chinese team was the earliest team to prepare for the 2018 World Cup.
Thank you, I have said it. Like this game, if you haven't laid a good foundation, can you guarantee to win the critical games in 2016 and 2017? To be pragmatic, I advise the government to understand the strategic play of soccer and the concepts first, but they don't even care about the basic courtesy. You may think that the poor performance of the Chinese national team is due to the lack of interest in soccer in China, but the reality is that over the past decade, China has made soccer one of the leading sports for the country. There are a huge number of soccer fans in China. I came here before 2100 today because the time of the opening ceremony changed to 22:30, so I showed up early to get a seat, for there won't be any seats left if you show up late. I've organized people to come watch the opening ceremony every time, and I surely won't miss today's opening ceremony. This only comes every 4 years after all. In my situation, from high school to college and now to work, honestly, it's getting harder and harder to find free time. But I still hope that this is an appointment that comes every 4 years that I would keep. Moreover, current party leader Xi Jinping has made no secret of his obsession with soccer. In 2011, a year before Xi became China's chairman, he told a South Korean government official that he had 3 wishes: for China to qualify for the World Cup, to host it, and to win it. The following year, Beijing launched a plan to make soccer a national sport. The plan includes increasing the number of schools with soccer fields in China from 5,000 to 50,000 by 2025, with the main goal of pushing China's national soccer team to qualify for the World Cup. Soccer development in China is one of the products so characteristic of the regime of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. It's a snapshot of how sports are run with the so-called national might. The CCP has tried to use the resources of a nation to get Chinese soccer out of Asia and into the world. But why haven't they succeeded? We will explore this topic in the second half of the episode. The 22nd FIFA World Cup held in Qatar from November 20th to December 18th is the first major unrestricted sporting event since the global outbreak of COVID-19 in 2019. It's also the first World Cup to be held in the Northern Hemisphere during the winter months. On the eve of the World Cup kickoff, CCP Party Media (CCTV) introduced Qatar's 8 stadiums, with special emphasis on the main stadium, Lusail Iconic Stadium, which was built by a Chinese company. There is another 974 stadium, which was also built by a Chinese crew. The stadium was named 974 because 70% of the stadium was made up of containers, with a total of 974 containers. In addition, the players' jerseys, soccer balls, main venues, the various merchandise around the games, and the official vehicles are almost all built or provided by Chinese companies. Yiwu Sporting Goods Association in Zhejiang Province estimates that what's made in Yiwu, China's small commodity hub, accounts for almost 70% of the entire market share of the World Cup merchandise. 3 tons of goods, including towels, hats, and scarves. The air transport costs 80,000 to 90,000 yuan. Ocean shipping costs no more than 10,000 yuan, but it would take 20 to 30 days, and that's too late. For this year's World Cup, we have designed products with dynamic figures to enrich the variety of trophies. Our production capacity is around 3,500 footballs a day. The key is to secure every day's production. The Chinese ambassador to Qatar, in a video interview with the CCP's Xinhua news agency, wearing a Chinese tunic suit, talked about the Made in China World Cup, saying that Chinese elements and Chinese contributions are everywhere, like the stars in the sky lighting up the entire World Cup in Qatar. Other Chinese diplomats have made similar remarks. These comments quickly drew sarcastic comments from Chinese netizens, who wrote, "What they said makes a good analogy. It's like this chef can do everything except cooking." The Chinese men's soccer team turned out to be a construction team for the World Cup infrastructure. The bragging has been stretched to the extent as if China were hosting the World Cup. People who participate in the game and who watch the game don't even care if it's made in China. Chinese soccer team can enjoy watching the game. Even the pandas in China went to Qatar, but the men's soccer team couldn't go. On October 19, 2022, 2 pandas from China arrived in Qatar's capital city on a special flight, and they became part of the Chinese element of this year's World Cup soccer tournament.
Our bamboo is mainly transported from China's Sichuan, and we always have a backup plan. In the case of a flight delay or something else, we will seek supply from Europe. The pandas have settled into their new home pretty well. They enjoy their meals and sleep well. The 2 also gained weight. Jingjing gained about 3 kilograms, and Sihai gained 3 to 4 kilograms.
China's official media, China News Weekly, published an article on November 21st that featured the Made in China manufacturers of the World Cup with a sarcastic headline, "There is no shortage of Chinese teams in the World Cup, except on the playing field." It has led readers to suspect that both the writer and the editorial team that published the article had trouble hiding their disappointment with the Chinese men's soccer team as they adopted such a headline. Even before the start of the World Cup in Qatar, the Chinese men's soccer team has become the talk of the nation again. On November 7th, in an interview with the media at the 2022 China Aviation Exhibition, the top leader of the China Aviation Industry Corporation Limited made a remark that sparked great public attention. Some netizens said that according to this official, China's national soccer team has become the worst representative of China. There is no doubt that we are the national team, the supplier of first-class military industrial equipment, and we are determined that our aviation industry must not become the national soccer team and seek to become the national table tennis team. Throughout history, sports have had tremendous power to inspire the general public. It carries a wide impact on society and has the function of building national consensus. The heads of totalitarian states are fond of using sports to enhance the legitimacy of their rule. China's system of enlisting the strength of an entire nation and selecting talents from millions of people, in theory, ought to be able to produce top athletes and sports teams. In reality, it hasn't done that. Since the 1980s, China's national team has participated in many Olympic and World Cup qualifying games, but has only managed to advance to the final stage of the Olympics in 1984 and 2004, and to the World Cup finals once in 2002. That is, the Chinese men's soccer team at all levels haven't made it to the World Tournament in 15 to 20 years. North Korea also has a similar system. In 2010, the world's top team, Brazil, met the North Korean team, which ranked 105th. North Korea lost to Brazil 1-2 by only 1 point. It was something that China could never have even imagined. How come North Korea can become better than China in soccer when both are communist regimes? The CCP scouts out tens of thousands of children and sends them to more than 2,000 sports schools run by the government for full-time training. Permanent injuries have been inflicted on many because of the overload training. A lot of athletes have suffered damage from long-term doping. It's safe to say that 99% of athletic school students will be eliminated, and only a very few athletes can actually compete in international events and step onto the international stage. For those athletes who are weeded out, life is often difficult. They are poorly educated, physically injured, and have very few employment prospects outside of the sports system. Here's a clip from an episode aired last year.
During the Tokyo Olympics, a photo of a former Chinese gymnastics champion went viral on the internet. He was wearing a Chinese team uniform, holding a bowl of money in one hand and a sign with his name in the other, as he walked through a subway car. Born in 1983, he was selected for the national gymnastics team at the age of 12. In 2001, he won the hoop championship at the 21st World University Games in Beijing and the men's gymnastics team championship. In 2002, he quit the national team and returned to the corresponding sports team in Hebei province. In June 2005, he retired from gymnastics due to a ruptured Achilles tendon on both legs. After retiring from gymnastics, he had no fixed income and was imprisoned 3 times for stealing. He performed on the streets of Beijing and Tianjin and has sold his gold medals. After his street performance got public attention, he told the mainland Chinese media that although he participated in various competitions as a freshman at the Beijing Sports University, he was in reality a second-year junior high student at the national team staff school.
These have scared Chinese parents. In today's China, better-off families wouldn't want to send their children to sports schools to train, no matter how talented the children are. So, outside of sports schools, is it possible for a soccer talent to emerge among Chinese students? Maybe, but the odds are very slim. Think about it. Schools in China don't allow enough freedom for creative physical education. Class time alone runs from morning to afternoon, and with hours of homework, there is little time for Chinese teenagers and young adults to play soccer. More and more Chinese scholars and industry professionals have come to realize that the biggest drawback of China's national system lies in the fact that the entire nation pays for a sport that's played by a few and the political achievement of an even smaller number of individuals. Against the backdrop of a national system in China, the professionalization of soccer has been reduced to a tool for interest groups to pursue political achievements and personal gain, followed by the mad growth of corruption and backroom operations. In 1992, professionalization served as a breakthrough in China's soccer reform. Professional soccer clubs emerged in China in December 1993. 1994 saw the start of the first professionalized A-League. After the professionalization, the main income of the team is replaced by business sponsorship, and the name of the club takes the format of the name of the place plus the name of the business. Although China has a vast number of soccer fans, most of the league team owners operate their teams in order to develop their business interests. Most of these operators are either large real estate developers or insurance industry conglomerates. For them, running a soccer team is a way to bring direct publicity to their business and build relationships with the local government. As a result, behind the scenes of major tournaments, shady deals with billions of dollars usually take place. Back in 2013, a deputy editor-in-chief of the Chinese media outlet Sports Weekly and an anonymous former professional soccer player suggested that fake matches and bribes were prevalent in Chinese soccer and that local Communist Party officials would often manipulate matches to create their political connections. For the CCP, gold medals are the facade that proves the party's glorious policies. In recent years, the General Administration of Sports of China has implemented a naturalization policy in order to get the national team to win more gold medals. Naturalization refers to the act of a person who is not a citizen of that country voluntarily becoming a citizen of that country or acquiring citizenship of that country. For example, at the Winter Olympics in February 2022, 19 of the 25 players on the Chinese men's ice hockey team were naturalized players. In addition, another 2 naturalized players from the US, Ailing Gu and Zhu Yi, have received a lot of attention from the Chinese public as well. As of September 2022, there were 14 naturalized players on the Chinese men's soccer team. This should have cost the Chinese government tens of millions of dollars for the purpose of making it to the World Cup in Qatar. The Chinese Football Association, CFA, has announced a new financial engagement indicator for the Professional Soccer League, which will limit foreign players in the Chinese Super League to £2.7 million per year for 3 seasons starting in 2021, while local players will be capped at £571,000 per year. Insiders disclosed that there were no quantitative criteria for Chinese soccer players to enter the national team. Generally, the decision is based on the preference of the head coach. The current criteria for entering the national football team are basically very simple. Firstly, one must be the principal player of a professional soccer club. Second, one performs well enough in the matches examined by the head coach. And thirdly, it is best to have an acquaintance with the Chinese Football Association because the CFA will first submit a general list to the head coach, and the head coach will then pick players from the list. So, to get on the national team, candidates better have their names appear on the general list. Speaking of corruption, a news story recently broke out. On November 12, 2022, it was revealed that Li Jia, the former head coach of the Chinese men's soccer team, has been missing to this day. According to the Chinese newspaper Football, the department that took Li away was the Discipline Inspection Department of the General Administration of Sports. Moreover, Li is not the only person taken away, as many big names in the soccer industry are also said to have been investigated at the same time. Li Jia, 45 years old, became the head coach of the Chinese men's national team in January 2020, replacing a well-known Italian coach, Marcello Lippi. Li took the national team to the round of 12 in the Asian qualifiers. On August 22, 2021, the CFA renewed Li's contract for 5 more years. However, the Chinese team had a very poor record in the subsequent round of 12, with 1 win, 2 ties, and 3 losses. In December 2021, Li resigned as the head coach of the national team. Many Chinese industry insiders say that in Chinese soccer, who can play on the field depends mainly on the relationship. As long as one has a good relationship with the coach, one can still play even if the performance isn't good. In short, the coach will do whatever he wants and controls the player's training and various interests. The Chinese mainstream media are silent about Li's disappearance, and there is little follow-up coverage. 10 days have passed, but the incident is still fermenting, and more details are surfacing. As publicity and involvement concerning Li's disappearance are getting more extensive, public opinion is getting louder. It's widely believed that an anti-corruption storm is coming to Chinese soccer. Finally, let's go back to this year's World Cup in Qatar. Why are there so many Chinese elements in this year's World Cup? Beijing doesn't have a large circle of friends, and Qatar is one of them. Under the new world dynamics, the two countries have even closer economic interests. The issue of foreign workers' rights has become the most controversial issue of the 2022 World Cup. After winning the World Cup in 2010, Qatar has been under criticism for its treatment of foreign workers from various human rights groups. In 2016, Amnesty International accused Qatari companies of forced labor. The Qatar government has said that 30,000 foreign workers were employed to build the new stadiums alone. Apparently, the CCP is not at all interested in such issues. The day after the World Cup opened, Qatar announced a 27-year agreement with China for the supply of liquefied natural gas, LNG. Namely, the state-owned Qatar Energy Company will export 4 million tons of LNG per year to China Petrochemical Corporation from its new Beitiandong project. Qatar called it the longest contract term ever signed by the country in the midst of the global energy crisis triggered by the war in Ukraine. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, European countries have also been increasingly interested in Qatar's natural gas. But Qatar's negotiations with the Europeans have been difficult because Germany and other countries have refused to sign the kind of long-term agreements that Qatar has with Asian countries.
We're very happy about this deal because it's with Sinopec that we've had a long-term relationship with in the past, and this takes our relationship to new heights where we're going to have an SPA that will last into the 2050s.
The deal with Qatar is also profitable for the CCP at the moment, as there is a lot of room for resale in the context of the war in Ukraine. In the first 8 months of 2022, China exported US $164 million of LNG to Europe. In 2021, it exported a total of about US $7 million of LNG. That is, the CCP suddenly has new leverage, and Europe may fall back into energy dependence on the CCP in order to get rid of its dependence on Russia.